A major theme explored in Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain is that ideals and skills can live on through any one person. And there's no better example of this than the game's big reveal that player character Venom Snake is not Big Boss, but a former comrade of the legendary soldier. We say big reveal, but there was, in fact, numerous instances which made clear Venom Snake was not who we thought he was, some of which were given to us before the game even came out. The entries in this rundown are extremely obvious, so much that it was clearly a deliberate ploy by Hideo Kojima to plant the idea in our heads that anyone can be Big Boss, even the player. ISHMAEL and the medic, voiced by KIEFER Sutherland. Not the most obvious one in this list, Ground Zero's medic only delivered a handful of lines, but it was immediately jarring for those who heard it closely. By tweaking the medic's sound, it was revealed that he was voiced by Sutherland, and then in TPP's opening moments, ISHMAEL is voiced by Sutherland too. Something strange was obviously afoot. Just who is this ISHMAEL guy anyway?
We gotta get it out. No time for anesthetic, we have to open her now. We gotta get it out. No time for anesthetic. We have to open her now.
You can call me Ishmael. What the hell is going on? Well, the good news is, here in the land of the living. Bad news?
ISHMAEL also an expert in stealth and evasion. Continuing this ISHMAEL thread, you could conceivably ponder how ISHMAEL is such an expert in stealth and evasion. Professionally guiding the player through danger in the game's hospital prologue, his skills so closely bear the hallmark of Big Boss it's impossible to ignore. Who am I? You're talking to yourself.
Who are you? Who am I? You're talking to yourself. Been watching over you for 9 years. You can call me Ishmael.
These lines delivered by ISHMAEL are as on the nose as anything, removing any doubt that ISHMAEL and the player are some sort of carbon copy of each other. However, this line principally fed speculation that ISHMAEL was just a figment of the player's imagination, something Venom Snake conjured in his own mind after being comatose for so long. The Man Who Sold the World. Using the well-known song The Man Who Sold the World in the game's trailers and the opening seconds of the game offer clues to Venom's true identity too. See, the song's originally by David Bowie, but the version used by Konami was Midge Uri's cover, immediately signaling something isn't quite right. Plus, one interpretation of the song is it's about a doppelganger, or indeed a friend who's lost in the world. Venom Snake's inability to speak languages. One of the first missions in MGS5 is to capture a Russian interpreter to assist in an interrogation, but we learn in Metal Gear Solid 3 that Naked Snake is excellent at speaking Russian, so how can it be Venom Snake requires a Russian interpreter? This discrepancy is blamed on Venom's brain damage, but with all of the other clues up to now, it's another obvious example Venom is not who we think he is.
By the way, your Russian is superb. Where did you learn to speak it?
From my mentor.
We found out there's an English-speaking soldier somewhere in the region. He's a language specialist. His role is to translate information related to the West into Russian. If we can get him to join us, we'll have the upper hand in information warfare. Find this language specialist and extract him.
Conversation about Liquid Snake with OCELOT. One of the biggest clues as to Venom's true identity as an unrelated medic in MGS5 comes during a conversation with OCELOT regarding Liquid. OCELOT reveals that Venom doesn't share the same DNA. This revelation would suggest that either Liquid is not who they're purported to be, or Venom isn't. Confusion aside, this is yet more evidence that Venom is not the real Big Boss.
Boss, we've got the results of Eli's genetic tests. We can finally put this worry behind us.
We used the PCR technique and conducted DNA fingerprinting of the copied DNA sequences. Neither is mainstream science yet, but the concepts and procedures are sound. Both tests say there is 0% chance that the two of you are blood relatives, meaning the results are negative. He's not your son, nor is he your clone. He's just another person.
It was 12 years ago that Zero made plans to clone you. Eli's age and appearance certainly are a good fit. I admit the first time I saw him I did a double take, but it looks like we were worried for nothing. Eli isn't your clone, though you might still have one somewhere out there.
But if Eli isn't the boss's clone, why does he seem so obsessed with him? Not to mention having one hell of an attitude for his age.
I don't know. Learning the truth about himself, cursing the fact he's a clone, bearing a grudge against selfish adults, and coming to hate who he was cloned from. Big boss. If that were really the case, I could understand it. I might even feel a bit sorry for him. But no clone could have a totally different DNA fingerprint. And the test left no room for error. You yourself were there when we drew Eli's blood sample.
Come to think of it, when we went to OKB-0, he'd snuck onto a chopper and was there.
Yeah.
He was acting strange even then. Or actually from a little before that time.
That was exactly when we began these tests.
Maybe he suspected something when we drew the sample, not knowing what we were doing to him, and becoming mistrustful of us.
Hard to say. Eli's had an attitude problem from day one.
So what is he then?
Well, if he's gonna tell us that himself, we'll need to get him to open up more first.
Kaz saying, what about him? First witnessed in MGS5's GDC 2013 trailer, we see through the medic's eyes both Big Boss and Kaz being frantically treated for their injuries. Kaz is awake when Big Boss goes into a coma, stating,
What about him?
in reference to the medic. It's argued here that Kaz already knew at this point that the medic was going to fill in as Big Boss's body double, hence for his desire for the medical staff to treat him too. Post-GDC, Kojima was asked by Keighley about that third guy, to which Kojima referred to himself, which was an indirect reference to Venom being a representation of the players themselves. Saying kept you waiting in the blandest way possible.
Magic words, boss. I've been waiting 9 years to hear him. Kept you waiting, huh? Come on. Say it for all time's sake. Kept you waiting, huh?
Kaz is aware of Snake's iconic one-liners, so requests Venom to recite one during his rescue at the outset of MGS5. However, presumably as he's unfamiliar with saying it himself, Venom says, kept you waiting, in the blandest way possible, clearly not realizing the gravitas of the words. Facial reconstruction. This one could easily have been explained away as Hideo Kojima toying with the concept of a player representing Snake in a more involved way, or more simply as a custom avatar for future multiplayer play. As it happens, the ability for the player to reconstruct Venom's face is another clue as to his true identity as a stand-in, morphing his original face to something more akin to Big Boss. Huey expressing surprise.
Are you?
Dr. Emmerich.
Snake? Hey, what gives?
During the culmination of episode 12, just as Venom is about to kidnap Dr. Huey Emmerich, Huey glares somewhat at Venom's face with an air of confusion. Are you Snake? This person looks like Big Boss, but not exactly like him. Shrapnel protruding from his forehead notwithstanding, leading Huey struggling to recognize who exactly was about to abduct him. Another clue as to something being off with Venom's appearance. The boss AI not recognizing Venom.
Who are you? Snake? It's not you, is it?
As sophisticated as the boss AI is, developed as a decision maker to respond to nuclear strike, after all, it had a hard time recognizing Venom in MGS5, despite knowing who the real Big Boss was during their interactions in Peace Walker. Volgin realizing Venom is not Big Boss. In the side quest, whereby Venom retrieves the Man on Fire's body, the scene was set for a boss battle. However, during the cutscene, bullets fall to the ground, with Volgin and his horse simply dying away. Confusing at first, perhaps. Really what the scene is proving is that Volgin recognizes Venom is not the real big boss. Therefore, his lust for revenge dies away, and with it, his lease on life. Volgin, henceforth, resting forever. Paz's side arc. Encountering Paz within the medical platform conjures feelings of guilt and shame from Venom, which could easily be explained by Big Boss's memories. However, what's evident comes the big reveal is that Venom is actually traumatized by his own guilt from way back as a medic when he failed to save a patient. Not being able to save Paz must have weighed heavily on Venom's psyche and was something he couldn't shake, despite him filling the shoes of Big Boss. The posters in Mother Base. Mother Base's posters stating "Big Boss is watching you" is clearly a play on 1984, whereby the slogan appearing on posters in the novel is "Big Brother is watching you." This phrase is intended to threaten the dedicated populace into always keeping in line. If Venom was Big Boss, why would these posters need to exist? Venom's eyeball. Big Boss wore an eye patch on his right eye because of an accident through OCELOT in Operation Snake Eater. His eye torched by muzzle burn, rupturing the cornea and lens, resulting in the complete loss of the eyeball. On the contrary, Venom appears blinded in one eye. It's possible his eye was purposefully damaged to support his illusion as a Big Boss stand-in. However, there is a neat theory floating around that Venom's eye actually works fine, but he's under the spell of being Big Boss so strongly that his eye is malfunctioning as a result of some psychological hypnosis. Venom Snake's reflections in shadows. If the player zooms into their reflections in the ACC window, the face that stares back at them is the one they've created. Their avatar is the reflection. Shouldn't they expect to see the reflection of Venom Snake? The same thing even happens in the face's shadow, which is structurally different than its form. Venom can smell.
Something sweet. I can smell it even through the mask.
Pretty obvious, this one. In Metal Gear Solid 3, Naked Snake tells us he has no sense of smell. Yet in Metal Gear Solid 5, Venom Snake says of the Quarantine Bay that it smells sweet like fruit, and that he can smell it through the mask. This is too big of an inconsistency to be overlooked, and is a very deliberate clue as to Venom's true identity. Venom asking OCELOT about ISHMAEL. In one of the first cassette tapes, it's audible. Venom is asking OCELOT who the man who saved his life in the hospital is, referring to ISHMAEL. OCELOT offers no response, instead outright blanking him. Sure, it's possible OCELOT has simply forgotten, given he himself underwent therapy to play his role, but there's something strange in OCELOT outright ignoring Venom's question.
You were hospitalized in Dekelia, a British sovereign base area on Cyprus. It's part of British overseas territory that falls outside of Cypriot jurisdiction. You got moved from Cuba's Little America right into Cyprus's Little Britain.
Why Dekelia?
The UK and the US remain close allies. The last place Cypher would think to look for you is inside their own system. That's what kept you safe in British military hospital for 9 years. The safest place from a whale is inside its own belly. You were a regular Geppetto.
Well, it wasn't Pinocchio who led me out to safety. So who was that guy?
Cypher went so far as to attack British territory, burning their own ally. That's how badly they wanted you dead.
He said I was in a British military hospital.
Entering name and date of birth. There's symbolic meaning behind Venom acting as a silent protagonist. Kojima is working to get the player to see themselves as Big Boss. You are not Big Boss, but your own version of him. To solidify this point, and much like the Avatar creation, the game requests you input your name and date of birth. The medic doesn't have a name until you give him one. Metal Gear Solid has precedent for meme. MGS has a history of characters living on through meme, a theme closely explored in MGS2 Sons of Liberty, whereby Big Boss's third clone, Solidus Snake, is sterile so as to not bear children, just like Solid Snake and Liquid Snake. The theme of the game proposes that characters can live on through artifacts beyond genetics, hence meme. Given this, a non-genetic body double in MGS5 shouldn't have been too big of a revelation when it was eventually revealed. And that brings us to the end of the video. A quick request: we upload new videos every single day, and if you like what we're doing, please consider subscribing. It really helps us out. Also, don't forget to enable all notifications by clicking the bell icon so that you can receive daily video updates. Thanks for watching.